Marco Sturm's most recent comments have fans buzzing. After an appearance on Spitting Chiclets, he revealed his entire plan with this Boston Bruins team, as well as what he is excited for heading into this season. We're going to be breaking that down, going over everything, and talking about also one player who's due for a breakout, and if not, what will happen in his career path. We're going to bring it all down here in this video. Ladies and gentlemen, before we do jump into this video, though, if you haven't hit the sub button already, be sure to do so. We're on the road to 8K, and your sport's been absolutely incredible as of late. We appreciate all of you guys watching right now, and we're at a third of the way there from 7,000, so be sure to hit that sub button if you haven't already, and you're looking for all of your Boston Bruins news. But we need to jump straight into this here, and I have a few quotes from Marco Sturm from his Spitting Chiclets appearance, going over what he had to say with Keith Yandle in discussion, really being the one that was seemingly talking most to Marco Sturm and really asking the hard-hitting questions. And jumping straight into our first one here, they asked Marco Sturm kind of what he's excited for, and really like where his whole kind of mindset is going into this and who he's really excited to coach. And he said, from the vets to the youngsters to the Europeans, Marco Sturm can't wait to start working with the Boston Bruins players. Going on talking about David Pastrnak, while also going and talking about his tenure with the Ontario Reign, how much he's really garnered the experience of coaching some of these younger players, and especially the style of what the Boston Bruins are currently in, where they were in a bit of an Ontario Reign, LA Kings style of, coaching or a player upbringing like they were a few years ago. And now the Bruins are really prominent in that move, and I think that Marco Sturm, and this is what I've been mentioning as well throughout the hiring process of the coach, that's why Marco Sturm was chosen as this Boston Bruins team head coach. Marco Sturm has that experience. He's mentioned it here on the podcast, and I will link it down below as well. It's a very interesting watch. Now, he's not on the whole thing, so not too long. You can go watch it really whenever you're free, but Marco Sturm really kind of goes and spill, like, David Pastrnak has really gotten him hyped with this team. The veterans have gotten him hyped. So it really seems like Marco Sturm, and we could kind of, figure this out, that is going and making his rounds with the players, kind of getting to know all of them like he said he would before he really made any hard-hitting decisions. And now that we're seeing him come out with this on the Spitting Chiclets, we're getting a little new understanding of where he is with this team. And we're 63 days officially away from Bruins puck drop, so we still have around 2 months left for Marco Sturm to really accustom himself to not just the Bruins organization, but also every single player that he can. And that's something he's mentioned that he wanted to do. He wanted to come into this lineup and really go through it, get to know the guys, and then go from there without making any immediate decisions. And going on and taking a look at the lines as well, you're getting a little bit of mix of everything here. You're getting a mix of the veterans, you're getting a mix of the young players. Now, you're getting a mix of the Europeans as well, and Marco Sturm has that. Of course, he is German, has that European style of coaching that a lot of those European players like, but also a lot of North American players like. So he got that good medium for both, and I'm excited to see how he does with this lineup, especially looking at, not just the top six, and of course, we're going to jump into Casey Mittelstadt here in a little bit here at the end of the video, going over what he needs to do heading into this next season. But when you're looking at the top six, I think it's pretty well locked down. The bottom six, you're looking at a little bit of depth, but also the younger players, I think, will be kind of rotating into this lineup as the year goes on. And, of course, I really do think we're going to see quite a few trades from the Bruins this year, trying to get rid of some of the bottom six players and really just kind of free up this lineup a bit so you're not so bottom six heavy when you're going down towards the postseason, and you're kind of getting a little bit of that middle six and a top six kind of flavor that you can sprinkle in there as well. Now, also, Marco Sturm did come out with another quote, and we're going to break that down before we jump into the next kind of big topic that he had. And he said, I still love our team, even without any additions, because I think we have a good goaltending. I think we have everyone stays healthy. We have a really good decor. So, jumping into that as well, Marco Sturm kind of, he knows and he likes what he got. That's the big thing that I think Marco Sturm was, not necessarily hesitant on, or not like from our standpoint, watching Marco Sturm come into this lineup, is what would he do to this whole roster? As I've mentioned as well, I love the decor on this team. If it stays healthy, I think it could be really one of the best in the NHL, and especially if Nikita Zadorov played the way he did last year at the end of the season with Henry Okiaru, Elias Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy stay healthy. You have Mason Lohrei and Andrew Peeke on your bottom pairing. That's a very good bottom pairing, especially for a guy, Mason Lohrei, who just got an extension. Going into Andrew Peeke, who is in a contract year, going to be playing to get that next contract. They have a really good decor, and as well as Jeremy Swayman bounced back, I think the only really concern you would have is if the offense is firing. And I think, this team, I'm going to mention it again, I think they could be a playoff team. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but I don't see how they wouldn't. And, looking at the roster, it really is a lot of the same, but very different. So I want to know what you guys think about that as well, kind of in the comments below. But I want to jump into next Marco Sturm, kind of the next topic here from this same podcast. He would love to see Patrice Bergeron be involved in the Bruins down the road. Now, whether that isn't a coaching role, whether it's in a scouting role, he didn't really go into specify, but looking at how Patrice Bergeron has kind of impacted this team, I think that not just anybody on the staff, but every player that currently plays on this Bruins roster would love to see Patrice Bergeron back. And of course, Marco Sturm played with Patrice Bergeron. I feel like I don't need to remind you guys about that. Being a former player here, knowing the guy, but also playing with him, having that sense that he could be a coach or, some sort of coordinator, I think something that a lot of people really think Patrice Bergeron would, and I think a lot of you guys did. We've also mentioned it here in the comments below. We've spoken about it in videos that, hey, Patrice Bergeron would be a phenomenal person behind the bench on this team, and the fact that we're now seeing Marco Sturm come out and say this, hopefully get something going, gets the ball rolling here in some fashion. And of course, kind of seeing where Patrice Bergeron would go for this, I think is very interesting. He's taken a few time away, so now if he's like, hey, I've been home for a while, I want to get back into it, I think that's a great opportunity to. No rush. If you want to stay retired, obviously, be sure to stay retired. Obviously, he deserves it. But it could be an interesting way to kind of see how this team does progress and kind of this coaching staff evolves. And I do want to pull this up before we jump into Casey Mittelstadt and kind of just pull up the coaching staff. I don't really know where he'd fit in. I think we could see quite a few options. Let me know in the comments below where you think that you could see Patrice Bergeron here join this coaching staff, if it, of course, is a coaching staff role. I don't think that Marco Sturm would really say that if it were a scouting role, but somewhere in here, I can see him joining this, and not more so Providence as well, but kind of looking up at the NHL roster, I can see him somewhere in there, and I want to know what you guys think and where he possibly could be. But heading into Casey Mittelstadt now, this is a player that we've kind of spoken about a little bit here for this summer, and we've spoken about quite a few players as of late, but heading into the season and kind of putting on the same topic and same conversation as Marco Sturm, jumping into this lineup and liking what he's seeing, and of course going to be trying to make a few changes. I think Casey Mittelstadt, among other players and among a lot of younger players, is a prime candidate to really kind of take the next step with Marco Sturm. And jumping in, and actually, you got a little hint of what's coming here at the end of the video, but jumping into Casey Mittelstadt, and I did forget about that, I'm not going to lie. Heading into Casey Mittelstadt, though, last year with the Bruins, of course, 18 games, 6 points. Not what we wanted to see, but going through his career, you go back to a 59 year there in 22-23 with Buffalo, and 23-24, going 47 points, and a little bit of a drop off from there. But I do think that Casey Mittelstadt can really reach the potential that everybody thought he would have with Marco Sturm. And, the closest we've got to that was 22-23, where on the Buffalo Sabres team, he was, a guy that we thought was just going to keep going up and up from there, but it's been the exact opposite. And now that we're getting a guy who is good at developing players like this, Casey Mittelstadt, let's not forget, still only 26 years old, still very, very young, and on the contract that he's kind of on right now, a 5.75 going into year 2 of that deal. That's a big contract for a guy who is going to be, on the kind of no, I don't want to necessarily say chopping block, but due for a big pay cut if he does not really kind of pick up the pace here over the next 2 seasons. And as I mentioned, I think Marco Sturm is the guy for that. I think Casey Mittelstadt jumping into this line, being currently listed as the second line left winger, whether you swap him or Zacha there, and whether, you put Mittelstadt really wherever you want, I think he's going to be a valuable asset for this team. I've always liked Casey Mittelstadt, and I've always really been waiting for him to break out, but it just never happened. So I think Marco Sturm can really do some special stuff to Casey Mittelstadt, and I'm really hoping we see that this year. And I think that's why the Bruins have not really pulled the trigger on any sort of trade for Casey Mittelstadt just yet. So let me know what you think about that. But as you probably saw a moment ago, the Bruins released their white jerseys, and I want to pull this up because these just look so clean. And I see a lot of people kind of commenting on the shoulder patches, taking a look at, only having one. You want it symmetrical. I don't mind that as much. I think it's fine. I love the logo on the shoulder. The other shoulder does look a little bit empty, but the jersey itself completely makes up for everything. Looks so good. It looks so, so good. And you're going to see those behind me sooner rather than later when all of them get released and whatnot, and when we go down and get a purchase of a couple. So let me know what you think about those jerseys as well. But let me know also mainly what you think about the Marco Sturm kind of update on the Spitting Chiclets podcast, as well as going over Casey Mittelstadt. Do you think that Marco Sturm could have a little special impact on him here in this season? Now, this is all I got in the video, though. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. Remember, we're on the road to 8K. And if you're watching the point of this video right now and you're not subscribed, be sure to do so, and I'll keep you updated with all of your Bruins news. But thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.